governance is really the factor in the success of our development work. If you look at Strategy 2020, it's really about change and how the Asian Development Bank can best support the transformational processes that countries in Asia Pacific are going through in terms of growth, development, and of course poverty alleviation. While governance and public management is not identified in Strategy 2020 as one of the 5 core operational areas, governance and capacity development is recognized as one of the 5 drivers of change. So I would go even further and say that for the success of our operations in any of these 5 core areas, we need really to mainstream governance. Okay, if we look at ADB programs, in one way or another, it's about bringing in reforms and change to the status quo. Now, this is a very complex process, and governance plays a very important role. If you think about how we structure organizations around proven frameworks, if you think about how we are able to design, implement and enforce contracts, if you look at how we're able to develop incentives to reach to optimal development outcomes, these are all elements or important considerations as far as how we mainstream governance. Now, if you go back to Strategy 2020, you will see that it identifies 4 elements of good governance, which include transparency, accountability, predictability, and participation. And I would say that we need to ensure that all of these elements are mainstreamed in each and every one of our projects. In my area, which is the public resource management area, the ultimate goal is to improve service delivery. In order for us to do that, we have to recognize that we need to have fiscal structures in place that can generate revenue and in some ways contain expenditures to be able to meet and finance those new services, particularly on a sustainable manner. Now, in order to bring government into this and build that ownership, there needs to be, first of all, a recognition of what the government's role is. So as part of this process, governments need to recognize that they are critical stakeholders in this process, together with, say, private sector and civil society. We need to recognize that we have to identify a champion of reform in that process to lead that drive. We need to recognize that there is an important element of change management so that we remove some of the old ways of doing things and get people to think outside the box. So I would say that these are all critical elements in terms of building ownership, and ideally we hope that through this process momentum is created where there's a virtuous cycle, as it were, and ADB can gradually disengage so that the momentum continues on its own.